is the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS show with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Despite what my name tag says, we got two James Grandes here in the chat. I got to fix that.
Hell yeah.
We got 7 games on tonight's NBA main slate. James, my friend, how you doing, man? Coming off of $1,000 cash last night. Little Thursday sweat for you and I'm almost positive I was going to take down that showdown slate had Devin Vassell not gotten hurt there. I had a near optimal lineup going.
Yeah, it seemed like you were definitely going to have the optimal lineup. And you just unlucky circumstances, and that happens seemingly in the NBA more often than not with the injuries. And, you still had a really good lineup, which goes to show you how good it was.
I
Shout
got
out to
0
Wemby.
points from a guy in a showdown slate for an entire second half and still finished well within the money.
Yeah, almost top 50, I think, in the contest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you had a great line.
Victor Wembanyama was an absolute.
For the both of us,
game,
darling.
baby.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh, dude. I mean, that's one for the ages. 38 and 10 with 2 blocks and 2 assists. And in Phoenix, you go and beat returning Devin Booker, who had a monster second half, and Kevin Durant on their home floor.
Yep.
To sweep them up by like 25 at one point in that game. Shout out to Victor and the Spurs, who looked awfully impressive. He helped us both, and we both had really good nights because of it. And here we are on Friday. 7 games, wheelhouse, perfect size for a slate.
It is.
In-season tournament tonight, John. I think still people don't understand that that's a thing. And I think it's going to be a lot of who knows who knows how people are going to treat this thing. It's because it counts as your regular season record.
Counts as your regular season record, but there's also a monetary bonus at the end of that rainbow as well. So players should be taking it a bit more seriously if they care about the extra change. I mean, there are plenty of players in the NBA right now making like $60 million a year. So maybe they don't care as much, but end of the bench guys, maybe they care about the bonus there. There is a little bit more of an incentive for those. Get this in-season tournament kicking off here. James, let's just get into it. We'll start talking about some totals, some injuries, and we'll do our positional breakdown. Those of you who are tuning in to today's show, stick with us here. It is Listener League Day. We'll throw those of you who are tuning in, and you're a member of the Fantasy Alarm family, you'll get the invite to our Fantasy Alarm Listener League. And if you say at the end of the show, we'll also, because we appreciate all of you who tune in to our live stream each and every day, throw the Listener League link into the chat here at the end of the show. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us here. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Boosts our visibility, helps us out a lot, and lets us do a lot more cool things for you guys each and every day. James, that said, let's jump into it. Let's take down this NBA 7-game main slate. Let's talk about these high game totals we should be targeting. A lot of the game totals kind of mixed in with each other. No one really standing too far above one another, but what are some of the top matchups we're looking at here today?
Yeah, I mean, every game over 220. So nothing under or nothing over 230. So everything's right in smack dab in the middle. Nothing but good environments. I would say the most probably important notes tonight are, does Miami blow Washington out? 8.5-point favorite at home is Miami with a fully healthy team. Can OKC 224.5 total hold off the Warriors without SGA? That's obviously a big note. Again, you don't really see a team of OKC's caliber 6.5-point home dogs, but that's what the Warriors and combination of SGA being out bring. And then the best total on the board, which has been bet up drastically, opened at 224, now 228.5, is Dallas Denver. 6.5-point spread in Denver, in favor of Denver, obviously, at home. So those are some of the key Vegas notes. Again, there's nothing that else that really stands out. Every game's above 220 and every game is below 230. So a lot of points expected, nothing above the rest. So Should be a fun one tonight. 7 games on the docket.
Sure. Biggest news here of the day, obviously we knew this ahead of the time, was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being ruled out for this game here. So there's obviously been a lot of Thunder exposure to tonight's slate for DFS. A lot of people are getting to the majority of the starting lineup here in this matchup against Golden State here. A couple of guys we are looking for official statuses on. Tyrese Halliburton's questionable. Darius Garland is questionable. Jared Allen is questionable. Garland and Allen both practice. I think the expectation is that they will play. Still waiting on the Halliburton dude. RJ Barrett also questionable, dealing with his injury. He'd missed the Knicks' most recent game. Scoot Henderson is out tonight for Portland, and as we know, Nick Claxton continues to be out for the Brooklyn Nets there. So some notable injury names to watch as we head towards roster lock here tonight.
Yeah, and you said Allen and Garland practice. They also went their shoot around this morning. Right. So obviously that's not always an indication. They're not always a definite that someone's going to play, but it's a good indication that someone's going to play when they can make it through shoot around and no reports come out after that. Well, they don't actually feel that good. So
agreed. Let's get into this. We got our positional breakdown here. You and I talked about it on the NBA DFS preview show here today. Luka Doncic at $13,000, especially now they confirmed returning Kyrie Irving, feels just a bit too much having to go into Denver to pay off the $5,000 price tag here. You need 65 fantasy points. Now, he did that obviously in 3 of the first 4 games of the year, but he was 11K at that point. Now he's only gave you 46 fantasy points at $13,000. Not saying he can't do it. There are a few players on the slate that can knock this total out every single time they step on the floor. They'll actually be in the same game here tonight. I am just not willing to spend the money on Luka at 13K tonight.
Yeah, I think how you framed it is the correct framing, because he can do it. We've seen him do it with and without Kyrie, but usually the guys that we've seen 13K in the past, Russell Westbrook and James Harden specifically, those have been the 2 guys that we've seen at this price, were playing by themselves. And Kyrie Irving is a high usage player in his own regard. So I personally am going to pass on Luka, but if you end up getting to Luka because you find enough value, which I think is the other, kind of elephant in the room about getting to Luka, there's not a lot as of the way the slate stands right now before all the injury news. Then so be it. We know he has as high of a ceiling as anyone else in the NBA.
Yeah, I agree with you here. What are your thoughts on Steph Curry, Dame Lillard here? Curry's at 10-1, Dame at $9,400. Obviously, Lillard had that monster opening nights, has kind of stepped off a little bit. Well, Curry's had a couple of games over 60 fantasy points, 40 actual in 2 of the last 4 here. Any interest in the other 2 guards at this tier?
Tournaments, I think they're both like tournament options at best. It's hard to love getting to Curry at 10-1. Like, I'm not saying there's not a ceiling, but they're fully healthy, firing on all cylinders. And Dame has also been up and down, and so has Giannis. I think they're all still trying to figure out how to play together because they have not looked really that good over the last few games. So not totally a tier that I'm spending up for.
Sure. I think Lillard makes for an interesting tournament play here tonight against the Knicks. Again, we have in the past had some success attacking their guard play. If Barrett's out, obviously that puts Josh Hart in the starting lineup. But with Jalen Brunson and Quickly in that crew here, generally a little bit easier to target on the offensive side. So might get to him in a tournament if I'm making a couple of lineups. When it comes to the chalk monsters, though, we got to get into the Thunder here. Josh Giddey's right there, $8,400. He's the cover man of today's show. What are we liking about Giddey tonight here, James?
So I'm pretty giddy about this because there's obviously no SGA, and we've seen over the last couple of years what that does, and that directly puts Josh Giddey on the ball. And when SGA is on the floor, like, I'm not saying Giddey's not on the ball, but let's face it, it's SGA's team. When he's not there, Josh Giddey runs the offense. He is a guy who has had a multitude of triple doubles over the past few seasons as well. That's because he is such a good passer on the ball and such a good rebounding guard. He's a big guard. Last year with SGA off the floor, John, 1.18 fantasy points per minute. That led the team, and obviously Chet Holmgren exists this year, and Jalen Williams has obviously taken a step as a player as well. But 1.18 fantasy points per minute is not something that I'm going to overlook. So because Giddey can really do it all, I'm willing to get there. He's kind of showing that already. Like the last 2 games, we've had 35 and 37 fantasy points. Now he was definitely in a different pricing tier. 8,400 is much more expensive than he's been. 900 more than he's been all season. Mm-hmm. We've yet to really see him play a full complement of minutes though, which tonight seemingly is going to be a night that they need him to. So I could see a few extra minutes going Giddey's way. $8,400. I'm perfectly fine. I think like he's a really good play, but we're going to talk about the rest of the Thunder. They're obviously much cheaper than him across the board. So if you're a little worried about the price, especially when you consider he's only played 32 minutes max, then I can understand why you would pivot away from Giddey and just play the other Thunder ultimately.
Yeah, agreed. And again, that may make him not necessarily a contrarian play because, again, a lot of people are just getting to Thunder tonight because there's no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And as we get into it, you'll realize that there really isn't a ton of great value on this slate. Now, I did the playbook. I certainly threw a couple of value plays in there that I have, my eyes on. But, on a whole, there's not a ton of like surefire or lock value. But there are a couple of spots where you see rostership going on that Thunder here. Moving our way down, Miami going up against Washington in Washington. You commented Miami's only 1-4 in the year. Washington's no great shakes here either, but we do consider them, to be on 2 completely different tiers. That said, Tyler Hero has been playing pretty much 40 minutes regardless of the game and taking 20-plus shots in every single game. Feels like another great environment where he should just show out for everybody.
Yeah, I don't see a reason why Tyler Hero would take any step back in terms of minutes or shot attempts or volume or peripheral stats because he does all 3 of those things. So this feels like a great spot overall for Miami. Maybe we see a breaking out party for the Heat because they have looked pretty lackluster. And yes, they've missed Jimmy for a game and they've missed Bam for a game. But like, why are we resting? We're resting players already. We're 4 games into the year. So I wouldn't be so sure to keep resting players when you're starting off your season 1-4. And your starting center is talking about you never know what's going to happen at the trade deadline. And we're 5 games in. So not the best vibes coming out of Miami, but
maybe they were resting everybody for this in-season tournament,
True. I mean, this might be the only thing they win this year, so.
I agreed. Let's move on down here. A couple of names we've hit on before. Ben Simmons, obviously a favorite of ours for a lot of this year. Could see Darius Garland come back tonight at 76, a decent little price tag for him. But the entire seemingly NBA DFS industry is on Malcolm Brogdon tonight. Scoot Henderson already ruled out. Expectations are Brogdon starts tonight, but even if he doesn't, probably still comes off the bench and plays 30-plus minutes because he's been playing 25 to 30 minutes off the bench as it is. 30-plus fantasy points in 4 of the 5 games here this season. Going up against Memphis, an 0-5 team, not playing great defense. Core play tonight for you, Malcolm Brogdon?
Yeah, core play tonight. Probably the first player I'm locking into cash games without Scoot Henderson and Anthony Simons because they're missing both of those guys this year. Or right now, Brogdon's at a 1.27 fantasy point per minute clip. So almost 1.3. He's second on the team behind Shaedon Sharpe, which I think is another interesting discussion because both these guys got massive price bumps.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're talking about a guy who's averaging 1.3 fantasy point per minute, now in the starting lineup, probably looks like he's probably going to play. I wouldn't say I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to suddenly bump him to 35 minutes, but I guess it wouldn't shock me. We just haven't seen it. Even during these games where he's been really good, even during these games without Simons, he hasn't surpassed 31 minutes. They've really still maintain and maybe that changes if he starts, right? Maybe he does play 33, 34, 35.
We have seen teams do this. Some teams just want to keep a guy in a 6-man role because that's what his role is, and they'll elevate somebody else. Now, that's not to say he won't play, like you said, come off the bench and still play 31 or 32 minutes, but he may not start. If he doesn't start, I wonder if that moves people off of him in terms of rostership just the brain chemistry thing. You don't think so?
No, because he's been popular pretty much every
Sure.
slate coming off the bench. Like I think just for the sheer fact that Scoot, a pretty high volume ball dominant player, is not in the lineup, people are just going to naturally gravitate to Brogdon whether he starts or not. I wouldn't be surprised if like Skylar Mays at 3,400 starts, just like randomly, or Tumani Carmana just randomly starts, right? Like something along those lines, because Carmana's already been in, or Kamara's already been in the race.
I almost put Carmana in the playbook. I really went back and forth. I opted for Dario Saric instead in the value section here, but when I finish up the core play grid, Kamara is in there. Halliburton officially in tonight. Does that give you any interest in Tyrese Halliburton in this matchup? $9,300 against Cleveland.
No, like it's another can play in tournaments. This is a massive pace down spot for Indiana. They're second in pace. Cleveland's like dead last, or 25th, 26th, somewhere in that ballpark. It's just not. We know Cleveland is an above average defensive team this year. They're only 14th, but that's still obviously top half of the league in terms of defensive rating. So probably not going to get to Halliburton if you want to. It's a tournament play. The price is good, right? He should probably more often than not, like late as we get deeper into the year and he keeps giving us 50 fantasy points, he's probably a 10K player normally. So if you want to take advantage of the price, but it's not for me.
Sure. Moving on over then to the, actually, is there any other value that you're in on, or
value point guards? There's not, like,
we kind of got the value kicked by Halliburton being active. So
yeah, I mean, I guess there is the Ayo Dosunmu news that he's doubtful. You've been talking up Caruso. Maybe Caruso goes from 22 to 28 minutes tonight. Sure. $4,500. Not something that like really moves the needle for me. But it is, I guess, worth mentioning. The Quickly thing as well. Quickly, point guard, shooting guard, $5,700. If there's no RJ Barrett, we saw a slight uptick in minutes. He went from 24 minutes in the Cleveland game, the game prior, to 28 minutes on the second night of the back-to-back in Cleveland. We've now seen Quickly go for 24 plus fantasy points in 4 of the 5 games, and twice he's gone for 33 plus. So I would definitely have interest in Quickly, and I'll just throw one more, and Spencer Dinwiddie's name out there. I know we talked about Simmons, but regardless of who the Nets starter is, they're going to play probably approach 35 minutes, right? Like that's just what they do. I like the matchup against the Bulls too.
So I just checked our rostership projections and then kind of spot checked a few others. So Gary Payton is actually getting a little love here tonight. He's 8% on one side. He's 6% on ours. I saw him at 9% elsewhere. Maybe just the pure lack of value on this slate tonight has some people getting into Gary Payton here. Maybe this game blows out. Gary Payton gets a little bit more love. He only played 20 minutes in the blowout against Pelicans, but 31 and 21 fantasy points in 2 of the 3. He's gone 12 and under in 3 of 5, but seemingly some people are plugging Gary Payton into their lineups tonight.
I think there's a lot of variables. The position eligibility is great. Point guard, shooting, small forward. The fact that there's no value, as you mentioned, now Halliburton playing like just soaks up any hope that there was value to come, right? That's gone. And he's playing 20 minutes. You're right. He's probably not going to play blowout run because he's been so injury prone over the last few years. But I will let the field have that one. If you want to play, there's good eligibility. There's decent spot. Sure. But I'll let the field chase that one.
Yeah. And then Kobe White, I'll just give you a quick yes or no.
Indifferent about Kobe White.
All right. Shooting guard position here. A couple guys we've discussed already. Donnie Mitch at 10K. Can't play that with Garland back, right?
In tournament, him and Garland, I really like the Garland price against Indiana. Huge pace-up spot, but we don't know what the minutes are going to be. I would say we'll probably get word because of the 7 p.m. game. Mitchell for tournament, he scored 70 points in a game. I will not say that Donovan Mitchell is one of the ultimate green lights in the NBA.
Sure. Desmond Bane's up to $8,800 here. We've discussed Giddey Hero already. So, any interest in Bane at 88 as the price continues to jump on him?
I guess you can play him.
Is that a Sean Connery? Or was that
was
Bane?
Bane. That was That was clearly Bane. Like, I mean, get some people in the chat like backing me up here. That was probably like a 9 out of 10 Bane. But
all right, so Bane's in for you. That's fine. Levine and Sharp, 74 and 73. You mentioned people maybe getting there to Shade and Sharp here this evening with the Scoot news. Could make sense here because if you're looking at the rostership for Zach Levine here this evening, yeah, not a overly popular play. It's definitely some people getting to him, but you know, other members on this team are getting more love than he is.
Look at this. Sean loved it. Sean's popping in the chat saying, "Oh wow," because he knows how good it was. Hal, shout out Hal. 7 of 10, definitely Bane. And Mark closed his eyes because that's, of course, Mark would know when to close his eyes at the right time. And Tom Hardy. So, shout out to all you guys for supporting my Bane. I have a new career. Sorry, John, I got to go. I like both of them. And I asked you about Shaden Sharp, and I think on the podcast, and I think what scared us both was 100% the price. Like, just not used to seeing Shaden Sharp at 73. We've talked about this in years past, where sudden price hikes are tough to swallow sometimes. But you look at it, he's averaging 1.3 fantasy points per minute without Simons and without Scoot on the floor.
Insane minutes.
He's not coming off the floor. He was the 4th overall pick last year. He has great position eligibility, right? Shooting guard, small forward. That's as good as we get. And we've kind of talked about it a lot with Memphis. And if you head over to look at your pace up section on the playbook today, this is one of the best pace up environments on the board. Trailblazers 23rd in pace. Grizzlies are playing at the 5th highest pace. What that means is Trailblazers are naturally going to have more possessions with the ball. More possessions, more opportunities for fantasy points. So I get it being scared of 7,300 Shading Sharp. Usually probably not a price we'd be comfortable with, but there's a lot of variables, I think, in his favor tonight.
Interesting pivot from Brogdon because 60% of the field is playing Malcolm Brogdon tonight. If you fade Brogdon, you're getting Shaden Sharp still rostered, but it's 20% versus 60%.
Right.
So if you don't play Brogdon, you play Shaden instead, and Shaden goes off for 51, and Brogdon just gives you a 30 burger. Right. Then you're winning the night here in terms of all the rest of the field that played there because they did bump up Brogdon's price tag. He's 65 now, Sharp 73, so it's not nearly as the discrepancy.
Agreed.
As it would be. So I'm with you there on the Sharp. And what did we just see Memphis do with Utah? Everybody on Utah was green light swishing. So
you get a 3.
So Shaden Sharp's going to go out there and chuck. I think we have a reason to be excited about this play at $7,300. Cam Thomas, bucket? Yes? No? Maybe so?
I love the shot attempts. Love the minutes. Don't love
Dinwiddie back? Is that impacting you here?
Yeah, I mean it's a tough price to get to. It was a tough price to get to 68, and he got us the peripheral stats we needed, but he finally had kind of
missed all his
shots, which I think he's gonna obviously have be a very efficient scorer because he isn't a guy. He's usually getting to the basket or getting to the mid range and not settling for threes. But I'll pass on the 7,200 price tag. It's fine for tournaments, not for me though.
Sure. Moving on down, 6K range here. We talked Brogdon already. LeVert can't really get there with Garland back. Marcus Smart was on track to have a pretty good game against Utah. Blowout limited him to 3 quarters. 4 steals. The steal numbers are ridiculous. The assists, and again, in 28 minutes. So you would have assumed probably would have gotten near double-digit assists, probably would have given you the 4 or 5 rebounds here. I have no problem going back to Marcus Smart, even as the price continues to bump here.
Dude, he's been over a fantasy point per minute this year by a wide margin. And we've talked about it a lot. No Ja, no Steven Adams, no Aldama. All these guys have been out, and it has been all systems go. And I know I'm pretty sure Aldama is not officially out today, but he's doubtful. There's just no reason to think Marcus Smart's going to stop doing everything for them because they need him to. And they desperately need a win tonight for the 0-5 Memphis Grizzlies.
I agree. I'm not going to play Strus here. Not going to play Buddy Hield. I never really liked Dinwiddie anyways at $6,400, so I don't find myself gravitating towards that. Anybody else in this mid tier for you, or the next guy that was in my playbook was Tim Hardaway Jr. at $5,500. I understand Kyrie Irving's back, but he was back there against San Antonio, and he still played pretty well. Shot attempts seem consistent, like the rebounds that you're getting out of him. He's knocking down threes. $5,500. He's going to come off the bench, which I think is another nice thing here too. You're not going to get him starting with Kyrie and Luka. There's a good chance he's on the floor with just one of them more often than not. So THJ for me at 55, I think still plays.
Yeah, I think THJ is okay. Especially in cash games, I think he fits the bill. I would just worry about Dallas in general. I know they're 4-0, and I know Kyrie's back, and I know this is a big time Western Conference matchup, first game of their their in-season tournament, but it is not the best place for shooters to go. Denver, so that's my only worry, but he has been super consistent, so I'd be okay getting to him in a cash game.
Okay. Where are we going next? Shooting guard again, kind of dumps off. We've talked about quickly already. Lonnie Walker may not even play. The guy wasn't in the rotation initially until Dinwiddie got hurt, so I don't even know what to expect out of him. Ben Mathurin, Nembhard, Malik Beasley's been okay. I mean, I don't know, man. Not a ton of appealing options. We get Richardson in the value section of today's playbook. Caleb Martin is out. We know that there's 30 minutes for him last game, 23 in his debut. He's missing shots, but chipping in a little bit elsewhere. Maybe him at 4K against the Wizards tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all depends on your view of their Miami rotation. I think it's definitely a spot that people will get to because they saw the minutes. 9 shot attempts is not bad, and the peripheral stats are not bad. He can play a little bit on the ball as well for a guy who has shooting guard and small forward eligibility. I'm okay with it. Maybe he gets blowout run. Maybe he doesn't if this game gets out of hand. I think the one value name that I would really have interest in, and we should know pretty early, is Dante DiVincenzo, dependent on the RJ Barrett news. If RJ Barrett does not play, then we saw the role increase drastically for DiVincenzo. He's a guy that they paid quite handsomely this offseason. He's a guy who does a little bit of everything. He's another guy who can play on the ball or off the ball, whatever you need him to do. He's very, very good defensively, like a lot of steals we've seen over the years from DiVincenzo. So that would probably, I think the Knicks value opens up a ton for us if RJ Barrett were to sit.
Luke Kennard's my dark throw.
Okay.
Played 20 minutes, took 9 shots, working his way back.
That's a good bump. That's a good bump. 15 to 21 and
I popcorn machine this. He got early run in this game. This wasn't a blowout run.
Good.
Came in the first quarter, played a lot of the second, played half the third, came out of the game. So in this rotation, he took 9 shots in 21 minutes. 8 of them were for 3. We know Luke Kennard can easily go 5 for 9, then 1 for 9 too. So at $3,600, Luke Kennard is one of my favorite values on the board here. Just a guy, you look at that front court back court rotation for Memphis, really not a lot there. So I think Kennard could get interesting. And who knows, if that game stayed competitive, maybe he would have played some fourth quarter run there to get some more shooting and spacing on the floors over a Xavier or a Williams or something like that, right? So Xavier Williams not the right name. What name am I thinking of there?
Vince Williams.
Yeah. Over that. So we'll see. Again, looking for cheap plays on a slate where there isn't many. I think.
Zaire. We're looking at Zaire.
Zaire Williams is what I was thinking of. Yeah, overplay. Maybe he might play over Zaire Williams. Get some more shooting on the floor. So again, $3,600, just a value play in my player pool tonight.
Yeah, I actually don't hate that because it is a nice minutes bump. It is a good spot. And they could use anybody that is anybody to make shots for them because they have not done a lot of that this far.
Agreed. Small forward position here up at the top. You got Butler at $8,400. One of the cheapest price tags I think we're going to see on Butler here. I know he continues to sort of hover around this role. Paid it off at opening night. Hasn't really paid it off since. Worried about the matchup against the Wizards at all?
He just hasn't looked. I don't know if like inspired is the word or healthy or he's just been fine. I would rather just probably play Hero or Bam, who are both cheaper, if I was gonna play Miami. But if you land on Jimmy Butler, he might have one of those nights where he like, almost triple doubles.
Sure. We talked about it on the NBA preview show. We actually hate small forward. We think there's nothing here. Probably where we find ourselves plugging Shaedon Sharpe in, to be truthful, at the small forward position. I just mentioned Kennard's $3,600, but shooting guard only on DraftKings. Plug Kennard in at $3,600 at your shooting guard spot. Play Shaedon Sharpe at small forward here tonight and help yourself out, because after that, again, if you want to go Lou Dort, sure, if get some more Thunder exposure there. One of the lowest rostered Thunder on the slate, obviously. More people getting to the bigger names there. You have the Brooklyn plays, one of them, either whether it be Finney Smith or Royce O'Neal coming off the bench there. You have Zaire Williams at 46, but there really was not a lot of playable small forwards on the DraftKings slate for me.
Yeah, I would say DDR, the only other like real name, but it's really hard to. Again, it's hard to like pinpoint which bull on a night-to-night basis is going to be the guy who goes off. Vucevic has definitely been the most consistent of them.
Yeah.
But, Levine scored 50 in a game, 50 actual. DeRozan has 52 fantasy point ceiling already.
You're getting more secondary stats from DeRozan than you are Levine. So if you want to bank on maybe a hot shooting Levine night or DeRozan night and then hope that the secondary stats continue to come through, he may have the better floor. But it's not great, the small forward position. So I do find myself pretty much plugging in one of these guys here from Levine down to Simmons and moving on.
I don't know if there's anything else I'd really play. Possibly Denny Avdia. Corey Kispert's out. I think Avdia, unfortunately, was snake bit by foul trouble and by the fact that nobody played and nobody but the starters didn't play after the middle of the third. So Avdia at 61 is okay, I think, if you think that game can stay competitive. If you don't, John, I want to get your take on this because I think it's interesting. I was looking at your Kennard play. I was looking for value today, and Bilal Coulibaly started 2 games ago, and then they decided to troll us with Muscala, right? Remember, we were all like, okay, Muscala is definitely starting against Boston, right? And then they start Kuzma at the 5. And Coulibaly starts in that Boston game. And then in Atlanta, we're like, okay, Kuzma's starting at the 5. And they're like, no. Actually, Muscala is going to start at the 5. And we're like, okay, so Washington just wants to F with us all year. Coulibaly has played blowout run in both of those games. Because the Atlanta game, only 9, it was a blowout. They were down by 20. They took all their starters off the floor, and they came back in the game. But even in the start against Boston, he closed the game in a blowout. So, it feels like, and this guy was, for anyone who doesn't know, lottery pick, and was Victor Wembanyama's teammate on the 196s or whatever the French league team was. He's a defensive stalwart, as we've seen. I don't know,
7th overall pick.
Game theory, if he's going to play 28 minutes every time there's a blowout, 22 fantasy points is not the best at $4,100.
I hate that he can't score.
But he can't score.
I would rather take my shots on a guy that can score and hope he gets a random rebound than a guy who can't score unless he's Ben Simmons.
This is where we are. This is where we are today, folks, unless something opens up.
I mean, listen, we have one more. He's a small forward, power forward. We mentioned him already. Where is he here?
Tumani.
Yeah, Tumani Kamara. Just from the minutes. Now, again, another guy that 3 shots, 4 shots, 4 shots, 5 shots. Not great. Fired off 16 against Philly in that blowout. But good. Back-to-back games and 7 rebounds, block, 2 blocks, block. So, the minutes are there. Again, not going to shoot a ton, but rebounds have been good. Defense has been good.
We think he's not going to shoot a lot until he has another Philly game. What if he's starting? What if he starts and Brogdon, they just keep up?
Like I said, I think he's worthy of a consideration just from a minute standpoint. If he starts, probably okay. My problem is if he starts, do you want him playing with Brogdon and Sharp? Or, you want him playing with guys that are going to shoot? Or would you rather him on the floor with someone who may not shoot. And how many times do you and I look at like the game cache? Like, do you see who's on the floor right now? Like, who's the scorer of this unit right here, right? Like, I'd rather take my shots on like Kamara being the guy on the floor there than being on the starting unit where there's a bunch of guys that will be offensive players.
Well, my thing is, I'm not sure if he starts. I don't think Brogdon's starting because they've been starting Matisse Thybulle at the small forward. So if you start, you're just starting essentially a massive lineup with Shaedon Sharpe as your starting point guard. Sure. And then Thybulle.
More of the reason why I think it's going to be Brogdon in the lineup here tonight. Power forward, Giannis is 10-8.
Wait, we didn't mention the small forward of the slate, Isaiah Joe.
Oh, you know what? I thought, for whatever reason, I thought we talked about a shooting guard, but I forgot that he's only a small forward here. In the playbook today. Also getting a lot of love in the rostership here today.
Should.
$4,200. He was the first player that I plugged in when we talked to the DFS NBA preview show today. Again, a guy that last year shot 40% from three. Someone that is obviously off to a little bit of a slow start shooting the basketball, no doubt about it, but you have to love the shot attempts we're getting out of this guy. He's averaging like 7 or 8 shot attempts per game while playing 18 minutes a night. So, and a lot of them are threes. If he does start tonight, again, he can probably give you a couple of peripheral stats and rebounds and assists, but he's going to just be firing from three. And just the mere fact that SGA is out, everybody's just sort of projecting Joe to play more minutes anyways. The DraftKings positioning here is wrong, but it is at least helpful. It's wrong at the position we all hate tonight. So if you don't want to spend up for Sharpe at small forward, you play Isaiah Joe at small forward and move on. On FanDuel, he's a point guard, that's his actual position. So, 100%. Again, for whatever reason in my mind, we had already talked about Isaiah Joe, but I'm glad you stopped me here. Definitely going to Isaiah Joe tonight.
10 starts last year for context for Isaiah Joe in obviously scenarios where people are sitting. 27 minutes per game compared to 17 as a reserve. 15.9 points per game, 2.6 rebounds, 1.3 assists. If you're going to tell me anywhere near that type of production, then sign me up in most, if not all, my lineups.
And this is Golden State. If they find themselves in a shootout, they're going to need shooters on the floor. So definitely could go and see some Isaiah Joe tonight again in a lot of lineups. So just be prepared for some chalky rostership. Is he going to Jordan Hawkins us, where 80% of the field was on him and he did nada? Well, smart man James Grande played Dyson Daniels for way less rostership and nearly took down the GPP because of it. So things to be on the mind. Power forward position. Where are you looking to go here? Giannis, Jackson, Randall, Mobley with a potentially returning Garland and Allen. Kuzma, $7,800 playing power forward because Gafford is in this evening. Any love?
Yeah, I mean, Giannis is fine. Like, I wouldn't mind getting to Giannis. I think he's gotten off to a really bad start. Again, they're like trying to figure out what the heck is going on, but who on New York is going to stop this guy? Like, we've seen countless games. I know he had the 55 actual point game in the Garden last year, the year before. Even despite like not playing all that well, 46 plus fantasy points in 3 straight games, or 3 of the 4. I'm not saying that's good enough at 10-8, but we know what the ceiling is on this guy. So I'm not totally crossing Giannis off my player pool. Just hard to get to with the lack of value. That's what I think it comes down to. Jaren Jackson, fine for tournaments. Julius Randle, fine for tournaments. Julius Randle cannot make a shot this year, but 4 double-doubles despite not making a shot. When the shot falls,
right,
we're going to have a ceiling Julius Randle game. Probably not in at Mobley, 8,100 with Allen and Garland likely playing. But you mentioned the Kuzma thing. I mean, he did that in 3.5 quarters. They did not, or 2.5 quarters, really. They didn't let him play after the 5-minute mark of the third quarter and had 45 fantasy points in that Atlanta game. Now, the problem is, in 3 games, they've been blown out. In 3 games, he's played 25, 25, 26 minutes. If his game doesn't stay competitive, who's to say Kyle Kuzma's playing 30 minutes? So it's a definite tournament play if you think Miami does not run away with this game.
Yep, I agree with you there for sure. Again, the ridiculous volume of shooting in the minutes that he's been playing It's just whether or not he gets the tough defensive assignment. Now, at power forward, if like Kevin Love is the starting power forward tonight for Miami, and that's who Kyle Kuzma's on, you'd expect him probably to cook here, but for how long? Guys, you who tuning in here, appreciate all of you. Feel free to throw some questions into the chat. James and I are happy to answer those for you as we move on along. Chet Holmgren, $7,600, another Thunder play. He's a center, but he has that power forward center eligibility. And he is actually more expensive than the chalk play of the slate. So you want to go a little contrarian-ish tonight, looking for some pivot moves here. Chet Holmgren at $7,600 could be a way to go. He did look at the very small sample size that Holmgren had without SJA on the floor, just an 18-minute sample size, only 11% usage, which isn't obviously great, but again, very, very small sample size for Chet. But I do like him. I actually took the over 15.5 points on his props here today.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, incredibly small usage rate, but incredibly small sample. Even with that usage rate, though, 1.2 fantasy points per minute because he's a freak everywhere else. I mean, he has 2 double-doubles. He has a game with 7 blocks as well. We need him to stay out of foul trouble. He's been in foul trouble each of the last 2 games. The Detroit game, he literally picked up like 4 second half fouls and just like never came back. Yeah. So that would have been his third game in four that he would have absolutely smashed. I think there's tremendous upside going to Chet because it is really risky because he is foul prone, but man, he is so good on both ends of the floor. This isn't like a traditional rookie. He's gotten to work with OKC. He got to work with them.
He redshirted his last year because he got hurt, so he's familiar. Again, and I'm talking about a distinct drop-off in rostership here for Chet Holmgren compared to the chalkiest player of the slate, Jalen Williams.
Yep.
A lot of people are getting to Jalen Williams here tonight. Again, a lot of obvious reasons why: usage rate, production, no SGA. Great rookie season last year for him there. Filling out the stat sheet, probably their leading scorer here tonight. $6,500. He's also cheaper than Chet Holmgren. But what have we been talking a lot about lately? The reason you and I this season have had some really big nights has been the ability to find the contrarian play and make the pivots where necessary here. So he's the cover of my playbook. 100% going to have lineups with Jalen Williams in here tonight. But if you're looking to get an edge on the field, Chet Holmgren is getting like single-digit percentage ownership here, while Jalen Williams is going to be 50% rostered. So, again, all it takes is you just getting that little bit of an edge over the field to take advantage of a lineup play here. So, I'm not recommending a fade on Jalen Williams by any sense of the imagination. He's definitely a core play for me, definitely in lineups. But getting some exposure to lineups maybe without him in case something happens, not a terrible idea either.
Yeah, and to that point, like Chet's shown a much higher ceiling in that regard. Like obviously he has a higher defensive ceiling because the block shots than Jalen Williams, but Chet's just been, and I know there's 1,100 price difference, and that's the reason why people are getting to Jalen Williams, but Chet has multi-position eligibility too, so I'm perfectly fine getting to J. Will. I'm perfectly fine why he is being so highly rostered. It is definitely a good conversation to have. Honestly, I would play both them if we're being honest. I'd play both them before Josh Giddey. So, like if I were to rank my Thunder, contingent on Isaiah Joe starting, Josh Giddey would be 4th. So, Chet would probably be my top tournament play. J. Will definitely Will and Isaiah Joe in cash. And yes, Hal, you can definitely play these guys in cash game or in
the same
lineup.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. You can. Again, we don't always talk full stacking games here, but you want to go 2 in a team and 1 coming back or whatever, definitely can be done here this evening. What are our thoughts as we move our way down? Draymond, Aaron Gordon, Andrew Wiggins, Bobby Portis. Any interest in any of these mid-tier guys here?
Nope. I did see the Andrew Wiggins price on FanDuel, and I had to double take it. It was $5K, and that makes you think. But look at Golden State's minutes in general. Everyone's kind of limited. Yeah. And I don't know if that's because they're deeper than they were and they're healthier than they were. And they're just like,
it's Curry's early season, you know?
And that's tough. So I don't love basically anything else. I would say I know you have some Dario Saric love.
I put him in the playbook just as a value play again. I kind of said, if you look at the minutes and sort of the production, Dario Saric and Bobby Portis are almost mirroring one another. Now, Bobby Portis has a game where he went for like 40 fantasy points, as we know he has that ceiling. But from a night-to-night standpoint, they're both playing 20 minutes, 19 minutes for Portis in some cases, giving you some rebounds, giving you some scoring. And you're getting Saric for $1,300 or $800 less or whatever it is. So don't mind Saric over Portis here tonight. Yeah, Portis is 54. Just for example, 19, 19, 21, 19, 22, 35, 18, 22. 3 of the 4 games are pretty much what you're getting out of Dario Saric on a night-to-night basis. It's just you do know that this ceiling exists rather for Bobby Poe. Probably not necessarily for Saric, but again, on a night where there's not a lot of value, Saric is someone that we kind of consider when we play Cedi Osman or Yuta Watanabe or something like that. Like Saric falls into that same range for me.
I am seeing, and I'm only seeing this, so I have to ask. $3,600. Derek Jones Jr. is getting quite the love, and even after updates, I'm seeing
back-to-back day games here. You kind of poo-pooed ish the Memphis game, and then he went out against Chicago. Maybe a revenge game got him up against Chicago here, but another game, 4 or 5 rebounds, 17, 22 points. But for me, Kyrie coming back, I think changes some things there. So
he's gonna start. He's been starting. Mm-hmm. The only problem is like you said, Kyrie coming back. Tim Hardaway coming in for him now, like he's contending with Grant and Tim Hardaway and potentially Kyrie and Josh Green. It doesn't feel good, and there's just not going to be that many shot attempts again. There's just not. I don't see a way he's continues to take 10 to 13 shots.
Hal says, "What's our favorite top spends?" Hal, we really don't have a favorite spend up here. We're not playing Luka Doncic here. We said you can go to Giannis if you want. I think Steph Curry's fine. I actually think Dame Lillard is okay in tournaments here. We think Halliburton's fine for tournaments. But tonight, to me, feels like because of the matchups that these teams have, more of a fair and balanced build night because there's not a lot of great value plays here. Now, we'll move on to center. Jokic does have a great matchup, right? It's going to be Lively or Grant Williams or whatever they decide to put, Dwight Powell, like whatever they decide to put at center here for Dallas is not going to match up with Nikola Jokic, who has a double-double in every single game. It's just the way I think we're going to be looking to go. If you want to spend up, I'd rather spend $12K tonight on Jokic than $13K on Luka Doncic. If you feel so inclined to spend up at center, this is probably my top spend up play of the night.
Yeah, now that Kyrie's in, I'd agree.
We're getting trolled by Sean.
No, we're not. This is Sean. This is a Sean special right here. Going back to the well and a guy who hasn't played well in the last 2 games but has a ceiling. He's for sure. I mean, it is the best game environment on the board. His home favorites. Michael Porter loves himself some home cooking. This is Sean. This has Sean, an actual Sean play written all over it for sure.
I think he's trolling us.
I don't think he's trolling us. I think Sean is dead serious about Michael Porter tonight.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Guy's not doing anything right now, but maybe.
No, he's done. Yeah. Look at this. I am playing quite a bit. I'm telling you, that has Sean. If I've learned anything about Sean, the GPP player over the years, that is Michael Porter is up Sean's alley to a T. I'm not getting there, and you and I are Michael Porter enthusiasts.
We love Michael Porter, but he's just not doing anything that warrants a $6K price tag right now. So yeah, I hope it hits for you, Sean. Honestly, I hope we all keep winning. Honestly, in the Discord there. All right, center spot again. Jokic for me. If you want to spend up, I think he's one of my probably the spend up if I'm going to spend up at center today. But if you watched the DFS show and you saw the cover, Nikola Vucevic is someone that you and I are very much high on here tonight. Sadly, I think we are obviously a little late to the party. Back-to-back 50 fantasy point gains, but they haven't done much to the price tag. So value is still there. Brooklyn matchup here tonight. They play smaller. They go Ben Simmons at center. They'll bring in Deron Sharp or Trendon Watford. All of this should be fine for Vucevic. I don't see him having trouble in either of those matchups. He spreads the floor a little bit. He's a rebounding machine, and the scoring has been there. So I'm going to have a lineup tonight with Nikola Vucevic in it for sure, getting some exposure there this evening.
And avoiding a clown nose, so good for you.
Avoiding the clown nose is true.
Yeah, I mean, they're starting Ben Simmons at center defensively. So we just saw Bam Adebayo have his ceiling game. 21-14 for Bam on the defensive.
PJ Washington had a double-double against them.
So, I mean, there's really not and it's not to say Simmons is not a good defender. He can defend 1 through 5, but you don't want that to be your primary center defense. You
want him to be able to switch off and occasionally defend the 5, not be the primary 5 defender.
Yeah, his value is not being the primary defender of center. So I do like Vucevic quite a bit. I think center is really interesting because I do like Bam quite a bit. I said on the podcast a lot early. Now I don't love the 12 shot attempts last game. I do love that he's been consistently getting to the free throw line minus last game. Love the rebounds. The assists are really good. He's obviously really elite defensively. And Daniel Gafford does not leave the painted area. So he is in line for a lot of rebounds again, a lot of stocks, as some would call it, blocks and steals. So I think Bam is probably my favorite Heat of the night. I know it's probably Hero is probably the more popular play, but there's multi-position eligible. Center's a really good position tonight. But I like Bam. I love Vooch. We talked Chet. And then I think Dominate is probably someone that you and I have some interest in because we didn't talk about Jeremy Grant in power forward, but Jeremy Grant could also this team just naturally needs more from the guys they have and got paid. Grant made $100 and a jillion dollars in the offseason. Ayton got traded and was a perennial 17-10 guy for the last 5 years. You would think this is a breakout opportunity for him.
Well, the rebounds are good for him. So he's gotten double-digit rebounds in all but one game. The one game he didn't, he only played 21 minutes. Going up against Memphis, a smaller front court. Memphis is going to put out there with Xavier Tillman, Jaren Jackson. I do like Ayton. I actually took the over 10.5 rebounds in the 8 rebound prop. I threw my 3 favorite pick'em plays in our Discord earlier today, so you can certainly check those out. They all still loom large there. So I definitely agree with you on Ayton. Value at the center play, would you give Gafford a look here at 5,100?
He was really good in that Memphis game. And that's kind of who I think he can be. It's just, does he stay out of foul trouble is obviously always the first question with Daniel Gafford. And then it's just another wizard. Will he be on the floor if the game gets out of hand? So I think there's a lot of question marks there. It's one of those things.
Any other value centers that you like?
Nothing that stands out too much. It is interesting to see Jalen Williams, the second Jalen Williams for Oklahoma City. He's making his season debut tonight. Yeah. Does that cut into Chet Holmgren at all? Remains to be seen. Jay Will started for them last year. Yeah. So they took him in the second round. That's obviously someone they have draft capital.
Value dart for me.
Sure.
Again, multi-lineup, 20 lineups, get a Hartenstein play in there. Mitch Robb could get in foul trouble tonight. Hartenstein, we know, comes on the floor, brings some energy, and if he gets going, they kind of just leave him out there sometimes to be that kind of productive play. You also mentioned, Trendon Watford got some run the other day in limited time, 14 minutes, 11-4, 4-1-2. Hard to just trust that he'll see the floor, but if Vucevic is out there just manhandling, they're going to have to put a center on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how this rotation shakes out, and I don't know if the Dinwiddie being in and Dennis Smith Jr. being in impacts that at all, because they can just go smaller and whatnot, but it's really hard to trust the Watford minutes. If you want to take it, if you're playing multiple lineups, playing 20 lineups, I wouldn't mind getting to 1 Watford, 2 Watfords.
James, before we build our example lineup here for the evening, throwing in the chat right now because we appreciate everybody tuning in here. Come join our listener league. It's a $5 DraftKings tournament here. Appreciate you all supporting our stream and podcast live show each and every day. So on Fridays, at the end of the show, we do run a $5 listener league over on DraftKings. So if you want to get in, compete against myself, Grande, and the rest of the Fantasy Alarm family, go ahead, sign up here this evening, get in on the fun, and compete against us here on a Friday evening. James, let's go ahead. Let's build our lineup for tonight. Where are we going to start? Shaden Sharp?
Yeah, Isaiah Joe, Shaden Sharp, and probably
small forward. Sharp will go probably the forward position.
You want to play Vooch, so Vooch and center.
Jalen Williams, is that where we're going?
Yeah, J-Dubs at power forward.
Do Kennard.
What's the news? What do we get? Brandon Ingram. That's Saturday news. Yeah, I'm fine with Kennard.
Do we play Brogdon and Sharp, or do we pivot elsewhere for guard here?
I mean, I would play both. I'm not opposed to playing both.
7,200 for a guard and a util to play here.
Dude, honestly, like I kind of want to play Chet. We don't have to,
or with
somebody. Like I would be okay. Like Shea just leaves so much out there. We don't have to.
Who leaves so much out there?
Shea, like when he's not there, like there's just so much left on the table to. I mean, we can go Simmons. I like in this spot 7K. We can play Tyler Hero. We can play one of the Heat. Yeah, one of the Bulls. Like all that would be fine with me. I don't actually like playing. I don't love the idea of playing Vooch plus somebody. It's hard, dude. It's so hard to get like two of them going good on the same night. They don't play well. One of them is going off, and the other two are like, yeah, we'll have decent nights, and we'll struggle through a 48-minute game, and maybe we'll win, maybe we won't.
I think our biggest issue that we found ourselves having here is he's a guard forward and a guard forward. Let's see if we do him there. Sharp at the shooting guard. 72 at the forward spot.
72 at the forward spot?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. What's the right play? Because we didn't love the mid tiers. The problem was leaving a lot of money on the board here.
The value, you're going to go to Saric, but like I don't
play Curry.
I mean that you can, but we've talked about it. Like it's not a thing we have to do. Spending all the way up today.
Mm-hmm. The problem is we didn't love the mid-tier, and we're stuck with a mid-tier price. So, I mean, if you wanted to go 3 Thunder, which you can, $6,800, plug in Smart, do 3 Thunder, Vooch, Smart, Brogdon, Kennard, get 2 Memphis plays there.
Yeah, you could always go back to if you wanted to play like Bam and Vooch or Hero, and we could pivot off Chet. But I know you said the forward spot is what's like.
Yeah, again, I don't think there's a lot of great mid-tier plays here today. So
Shaden, you could also play Shaden at the forward spot.
Yeah, well, we had that. We don't think there's a lot of great mid-tier plays in general tonight. So, what does a Jokic lineup look like here? Go off of chat. That's 49.
Sorry, it would have to be Saric
probably have to be Saric as a forward, and then that gives us a 57 util, which feels like a terrible price point for us here. Quickly, go the Dort contrarian route.
Yeah.
I told you this slate is not fun in the mid tier today. There's not a lot of value. There's not a lot of mid tier. There's a lot of guys that like this range, I guess, that are playable for 7 games. But this does give you Jokic, gets you some chalk with Brogdon, Jalen Williams, Luke Kennard, Isaiah Joe. So you're getting your OKC, you're getting your Portland chalk. You get a couple contrarian plays. Saric quickly. Again, you don't even need to play quickly if you don't want to. You can certainly find yourself into some other plays down in this range if you like. But guys coming back from injury kill our value, right? Like we don't know where Lonnie Walker's at. We can't do the Pacers value. It's not overall not like the greatest slate. Throw Giannis maybe in the center. 6,900 gets you back to Smart.
Yeah, Smart's fine.
So
that's a good spot.
Could do that. Brogdon, Leonard, Brogdon, Kennard, Joe, Jalen Williams, Giannis, Sharp, Sarge, and Smart. So a couple of example lineups for everybody. Again, listener league link is in the chat. If you're not yet a member of the Fantasy Alarm family, now is your time to do so. We have our All-Pro subscription package for the annual subscription discounted right now. FantasyAlarm.com/lock, promo code LOCK. Scan the QR code here on the screen. Get an entire year's worth of premium content for less than $16 a month. Our monthly price right now is like $40 a month, so you're getting a ridiculous amount of savings here. Signing up for the full year, get access to all of our premium content, not just NBA, but NHL, NFL, MMA, PGA, NASCAR, you name it. If it's behind a paywall, you get it for less than $16 a month when you sign up for our All-Pro subscription package. James and I will be in the Discord here. I got to update the core plays now that we get more news coming out, so be on the lookout for that playbook update coming. Good luck, everybody, tonight. Good luck this weekend. We'll be back Monday, and we will, we'll catch you everybody later on in the Discord. See you then.